So financial fitness is a term that I coined in 2024. This really has to do with the pandemic that occurred just a couple of years ago, but I launched Exceptional Results Now.
Welcome back to another episode of the Business Narrative. Today we have Jason Safford, an executive coach, an architect who claims that he can align mental health of executive entrepreneurs, how this that can happen. And he also claims that if they improve their mental health, they can scale up their business. How all this thing can happen, we will be going to ask him. Thank you so much, Jason, for your precious time.
Thank you for having me on your show.
Jason, I mentioned earlier that you only work with executive entrepreneurs. Number one, what is the main reason behind it and why they have issues, executive entrepreneurs? They have a lot of work burden, that is the main reason, and how they can scale up their business after improving their mental health.
Great question. So this really has to do with the pandemic that occurred just a couple of years ago, but I launched Exceptional Results Now during the pandemic to help a lot of executives who were struggling with transitioning their teams from in-person to remote and managing that transition, as well as trying to communicate with their teams in this new setting. They were having a lot of difficulty with that management, as well as their own personal management. There was a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress that was caused because of the pandemic. And so for a lot of these executives, they reached out to me from the standpoint of just a mental health component. What expanded from that initial experience and the engagement with them was the understanding that these were individuals who were struggling with their own time management, as well as their ability to put themselves in the right position, both mentally and physically, to be able to manage the stress associated with their teams and their businesses going through this challenge of the pandemic. So I developed a number of tools and resources for these individuals that were very successful, that included physical fitness as well as mental and spiritual fitness. And it was about aligning them with their business performance by recognizing their position within their company being the catalyst for everything. So because they were so important to their companies from the standpoint of how they modeled success to their employees, how they inspired them, how they gave their teams aspiration for the future, one of the biggest challenges that most leaders have, especially when they are executives in an ownership position, when they have a huge amount of responsibility to the overall success of their business, is understanding the dependency that their team and their staff has on their overall well-being. When a leader isn't feeling well or they're not performing their best, it reflects on the entire company. That's the first thing. The second thing is the team members of that company oftentimes don't perform as well as they could, depending on how much their leader gives them a sense of urgency in terms of putting their health first. So one of the things that I've learned, and I try to communicate through my practice, is helping people to understand the power of resilience that you need just in the 24 hours of today. Because you're going to wake up in the morning, you're going to set your agenda, and then life is going to take over. And it's about your ability to respond to the challenges that life presents you your company, your employees, all the things that have an exterior or external impact to the agenda that you set at the beginning of the day. And your intuition, your authenticity, your empathy, all of these powerful soft skills that you need to develop to be able to accommodate life as it greets you throughout the day are going to be the things that help your team and your business succeed when you may not necessarily feel like you're going in that direction. And so those are the key components to resilience that I think every leader, especially in today's society, dealing with all of the global challenges as well as all of the microcosms of business that now exist because of the different platforms and all the competitors that are showing up every day.
So you have talked about catalyst and architectural resilience approach, right? So these methodologies can have a deep impact, but these methodologies are totally new for me. So I want you to explain deeply for the better understanding of our audience as well, and how can an entrepreneur or a CEO be a peak performer for those employees who are looking towards him, because in critical situation every employee sees towards his leader. So can you explain?
That's a great question. And I'll start by telling you that there's an old saying, I think it's an Italian saying, but I learned it when I first got into business. And it's the fish stinks from the head down. So if you position yourself as a leader to understand that your company either thrives or dies based on your performance being the head of the organization, we're not just talking about your intellectual or, overall smartness. We're talking about your ability to perform in every aspect, in every area of your life. And that has more to do with alignment of your fitness, of your mental well-being, of your spirituality, and putting them in equal focus with your ability to manage teams and finances and make the decisions that are so critical for the economic success that you want for your company. And the critical decisions that you have to make have more to do with your overall fitness and health personally, because the more that you're in alignment is the more you are willing to step back and make decisions with that clarity rather than rushing into something based on emotion or rushing away from something based on a fear or past experience that you haven't gotten over that trauma.
Jason, you always talk about financial fitness is a part of holistic lifestyle. So, like, what does it mean? Like, financial fitness is just beyond the numbers, or like it's a part of an entrepreneurial journey? How these things are different, and how an entrepreneur can focus on financial fitness, and after improving his financial fitness, he can scale up their business.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, financial fitness is a term that I coined in 2024. And again, it came out of the pandemic experience and understanding that for a lot of business leaders, struggling with alignment had to do with the stress between balancing the books and balancing the emotions of your human capital and really looking at a business in terms of what's most valuable. And when you look at it from the individual standpoint of your own human capital, if you were to look at yourself as the most valuable asset from a capital perspective in terms of what you can generate for your family, for the people around you, for your community, you have a very different perspective as to how to take care of yourself than if you just look at yourself as someone who gets up every day and works. When you look at yourself as an asset that can grow all sorts of valuable things for people around you, as well as for your own economic benefit, you're going to treat yourself very differently. Now, when you put that in the context of business, you realize that there's a balance to everything. And that if you're putting money and profits ahead of all the other important aspects of managing life and the different things that go into it, from the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual perspectives, financial is only one component. And bringing them into alignment has as much to do with finding the nuances between each relationship. How does my financial relationship work with my physical relationship with myself? How does my mental relationship work with my financial relationship with myself? When you plug these all together, it becomes a lot more clear and simple to understand what the pathway forward is for you to be able to represent yourself in a manner that you're able to perform at the highest level. And to give you a real example of what I'm talking about, one of the things that we present as financial fitness is a corporate wellness program that benefits both the company and the individual without any additional cost to either one of them. In fact, there's a net savings to both the company and the employee. So when we're able to offer this to a company, it should be a no-brainer. We're offering them both a benefit that requires no out-of-pocket cost to either one of them. And it's completely compliant with the IRS tax code. It's completely viable from a standpoint of regular benefits. The challenge is the communication with which it's done. For somebody to look at this and embrace it and say, yeah, this is a great idea. Because if they're looking at it from a fear of, I'd heard this before, or they're looking at it from a fear of, will it work? They've put a block in the pathway to their own success.
Jason, you have worked with more than 1,500 entrepreneurs around the globe. So you have experience. You can tell us in a bit detail, like what is the common mindset gap between entrepreneurs in terms of money, financial growth, and financial success? Like why they lack, because they have all the resources, but still they are unable to grow their business. Like what is your take on it as a coach, as a spiritual leader?
From my own experience, I've been an entrepreneur tens of times and helping others in entrepreneurship thousands of times. The number one challenge every entrepreneur faces is understanding the real amount of money necessary to achieve the vision they see. We are taught by different successful people different methodologies to becoming an entrepreneur, as well as the idea of financial freedom, business leadership, and market disruption. And too often, what is encouraged is the idea that you just need to go forward regardless of whether or not you have a plan. The excitement that takes over any entrepreneur to achieve their vision is something that needs to be put in perspective from that standpoint of financial fitness. If you want to lift 400 pounds and you've never lifted a weight before, you need to have a very clear plan of how you're going to go from 0 to 400 pounds. And most entrepreneurs not only lack that, but the information and encouragement around the idea to just go do it and figure it out is the greatest landmine to cause catastrophe in that entrepreneur's life. For any business leader, any executive, it's no different. The reality is that your pathway to success has more to do with understanding the quality of the repetitions and the long-term progress towards your goal, rather than trying to hack a new methodology or come up with some newfangled technology to cut corners. And this isn't a knock on either one of those things, because when implemented the right way, they absolutely expedite success and reduce the time period to do so. But that comes with the understanding and experience. And when you combine understanding and experience together, you get wisdom. So it boils down to wisdom. Most entrepreneurs lack wisdom because they have exuberance, and exuberance often gets in the way with wisdom.
Uh-huh. Totally agreed. But when I'm starting a new startup, I'm a new CEO, a new entrepreneur, I will have a very weak vision. Like I don't have clarity. I don't have alignment between my task and my decision making. If I say that I'm starting a business, I will be an HR person, I will be recruiting new people, I will be doing marketing, I will be doing all these things. So how an entrepreneur can improve his clarity, his vision in the start of his entrepreneurial journey?
I'm going to use the gym as an example because I think now that you've connected the dots, it will be very helpful to your listeners. But think about any business as a gym workout. Okay. There are going to be certain exercises that you like. There are going to be certain exercises that you don't like. Now, there are going to be exercises within that routine that are going to have more value from a marketable perspective than other exercises in terms of attracting people to you. But the exercises that are less marketable and more foundational may be the difference between success and failure in your overall progress. Here's what I mean. If you look at the average man today who is engaged in social media and goes to the gym or wants to go to the gym, he looks for other guys who have big arms, big chests, and a ripped core. Okay? So just from looking at those visuals, he may say, well, I need to go to the gym and I need to be able to bench press 225 pounds. I need to be able to do 10 pull-ups and I need to do 1,000 sit-ups. Okay? He's either going to get immediately intimidated or he's going to immerse himself in that workout with absolutely no attention to any other aspects of his body. And within 3 months, he's no longer at the gym. Either way, he's failed. Okay. Now, the smart entrepreneur is going to say, okay, I want, huge arms, a, a very powerful chest, and ripped abs. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find a coach who can show me the right way to go about doing this. And hopefully it's a coach who's good enough to give me a very realistic time frame. And if I'm willing to put in additional reps and include better nutrition, maybe I can speed this up by 10 or 20%, which is a realistic goal. So now, depending on how that entrepreneur works with that coach, the amount of money that they're willing to put into the overall plan and investment is how quickly they're going to see the results towards the vision they have for themselves. And it's the same thing in business. So you may be really good at accounting, or you may suck at accounting. You may be really good at sales, or you may suck at sales. There are going to be things in the business that you're good at, and there are going to be things in the business that you're not good at. And if you don't have help in understanding why each one of these aspects of the business is critical to your success, just like most guys who go to the gym and fail, you're going to have trouble being successful with your business. And I can tell you from personal experience, both as an entrepreneur, as well as working with most entrepreneurs who are willing to hire a coach, that even when they hire a coach, it doesn't guarantee success. Because the most important thing at the end of the day has to do with your willingness to get up the next day and put in the repetitions. Because it's not exciting. It's not the thrill that you get on a daily basis that you're looking for. Because when we go into business, we're all excited about the fact that we're in business. We're excited about that product we have to offer, that service we have to offer. The reality is that becomes mundane, and the thrill has to become about the processes that you're setting up, the lives that you're transforming, and the way in which you're going about meeting the challenges of each and every day based on what life throws at you.
Okay, so we have discussed about this clarity and vision. So I would love to ask you this. Please do recommend 2 or 3 habits, like after working or after improving these habits, new entrepreneurs, they can be able to implement their plan accordingly, and they can improve their vision and clarity according to the situation.
Most people hate to hear the first one because it disrupts their life more than every other habit. And that is the habit of waking up earlier than you want to. The earlier you wake up in the morning and dedicate time to yourself to organize your mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical self, the more positive impact you will create on your financial future. That's the number one habit that's changed my life. That's the number one habit that's changed most of the successful people that I've ever read about in the world. The second best habit that I can recommend to everyone listening to your show is the habit of writing everything down. And this goes to organization, but I'm also talking about thoughts in general. Mental health has as much to do with how you take care of yourself from the perspective of getting your thoughts out of your mind. Too often we make decisions based on thoughts that are unnecessary to the impact of that decision. And the more you're willing to sit down with yourself and have a conversation on paper where you look at things objectively and allow yourself the time to reflect not only on your own traumas, but the traumas that other people have had or may be impacted by your decision, is the more clarity with which you can make important decisions that will impact your success every day.
You also talk about champion word for executive entrepreneurs. Like if I'm a person, I am a job person, I will have a lot of excuses. I'm not doing this, I'm busy right now, I'm doing this podcast. I will make a lot of lame excuses. But on the other side, you say that if a champion executive entrepreneur, a champion person, uh, have all these things in his daily life, he can improve his mental health and financial wealth as well. So, number one, how this can be possible? And number two, like what is a normal day of a champion person looks like according to you?
People see the word champion and they think of the ticker tape parade and the trophy and all of the glory, but they never think about the hours of training and the misery and discomfort that you have to be willing to put yourself through in order to enjoy that one moment that could be no more than 5 minutes of elation. If you think about an Olympic champion that slaves away for an entire decade in order to win one gold medal, the effort in which that person is willing to endure personal sacrifice for that moment of unlimited joy, that's what we talk about in terms of the champion level of success. So we're not talking about living like a baller on a yacht with, a ridiculous entourage. We're not talking about the, successful uh, multimillionaire who has all designer brand clothes and drives a, $400,000 car and has a $5 million house. Because those are luxuries that come at the expense of being able to really put in the good impact that's necessary to influence other people's lives. That's the trophy that we all imagine what being a champion is. When you can have those very, very attractive, luxurious products to fill your life with. But if you realize that your happiness doesn't come from any one of those products, any one of those material things, your happiness really comes from the effort in which you're willing to put in to your vision, to impacting lives, impacting the world around you. You're able to then realize that any great championship team had their greatest moments and their most success in those moments of discomfort, working through all of the challenges in order to achieve that success.
Jason, we have a lot of things to discuss, but before leaving, we have a surprise rapid fire questions for you, and you have to answer them very quickly. You are a morning bird or you are a night owl?
Morning bird.
So, you love tea or coffee?
I love both, but my preference is tea, which I'm drinking right now.
Any application that improves your productivity?
I have to go with ChatGPT.
Dream job as a child?
Believe it or not, I wanted to be an NFL quarterback.
Your favorite destination for holiday?
Right now, Key West.
Lastly, calls or text?
Calls.
So this is the end of our rapid fire round. And before leaving, I want to ask you, like, there are many people, many entrepreneurs, they are just trying to start their entrepreneurial journey. There are many people, they are working hard, but they are continuously failing. So, any message you want to give to aspiring entrepreneurs?
I would like every one of your listeners to know that you have the capability within yourself. All humans have the superpower of resilience built into them. The challenge is being able to put down distraction in order to be able to pursue your goals. Having a coach can absolutely help you get there faster and show you the right pathway. But the first most important step is to recognize that if you want to compete at any level, you first have to be willing to recognize that it starts with your willingness to put everything else aside in order to be able to go on the track or the court or in the pool or on the playing field. Whatever the game is that you're trying to compete in, you've got to know the rules and be willing to study the competition in order to succeed.
Thank you so much, Jason, for your precious time. And I think there are many people who will be getting a lot of motivation after seeing this podcast. As an entrepreneur, this is the most important thing, having mental satisfaction. If you don't have mental satisfaction, you cannot grow, cannot scale your business. Because as an entrepreneur, you have a lot of responsibilities. You are not just working for yourself, you are working for other people as well. So try to help other people, and then you will see your business will going to flourish. We will be going to meet you in the next podcast. Till then, take care. Bye bye.